I'm waiting for direction. Uhuru. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to participate in this discussion on this morning, Eastern time anyway. This meeting was initially scheduled to be just a briefing with members of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. But subsequent to the outcome of the US presidential election, we thought it might be better to use this occasion to speak to as many Africans and as many supporters of the African Revolution as possible. And so that's why we are live streaming this discussion. And we're doing this in the context of the announcement earlier this morning of the selection of Donald Trump as the new, as the president-elect of the United States. And this clearly does represent a bombshell of sorts to almost the entire bourgeoisie, the entire white ruling class, to all of the white left in this country, to an assortment of liberals, and to many of the African people who refer to themselves as progressives. An African population in general, I think, has been made terrified initially by the prospects of the election of Donald Trump. And now that this has occurred, because of the inadequacies and the defection of a large sector of what is supposed to be Black leadership, African leadership in this country, many Africans feel that they don't have any response that could be made to the selection of Donald Trump, whom they have come to fear. And this is something that we've understood for a while, that the presidential elections that occur in this country have been able to occur for a number of years now without having to address the interests of African people, that more than anything else, Africans have voted out of fear rather than voted because of an assumption that one presidential candidate or another was going to be speaking to the interests of African people. So we think it's really important to have this discussion, because the African People's Socialist Party is the only organization, the only revolutionary African party in this country and much of the world that has not suffered a setback as a consequence of the selection of Donald Trump, and the only organization that anticipated this possible outcome, and the only organization that said it really doesn't make a difference if Trump or Clinton ends up being selected the new US president. So I want to talk a bit about that. I want to start off with just a two-sentence, two-paragraph excerpt from a speech that was made by Huey P. Newton 30 years ago, this December, at the Uhuru House in Oakland, California. The Uhuru House, like in Oakland, like the Uhuru House here, an organization and institution of the African People's Socialist Party. They kept the Black Revolution alive in this country and around the world. It's important to make note of this, because just last month in October, hundreds of people, I understand, went into Oakland, California to participate in the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party. And they're going to Oakland, California to participate in the anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party was not a demonstration that was an indication of their intent to complete the Black Revolution or to continue the revolution. It was an indication of what happens too often in this country and much of the world, of an assumption that history ended with the destruction of the Black Panther Party. It is an assumption by many that history ended with the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s. So I think this quote by Huey P. Newton 30 years ago this December will help to say something about how we understand history and can lead us to a better understanding of how we interpret what has just occurred with the selection of Donald Trump as the president-elect of the United States. Here's Huey P. Newton. He says, I think I should read this clever remark first, or sort of introductory sentence. He says, I am uncomfortable speaking. I've never been too good at lecturing. They used to say I was pretty good with the gun. And that got a chuckle from the people who were there. And then he said, it is very important to keep our history going. Too often, Black history is not recorded. It's forgotten about. This keeps us from knowing what direction to go in the future. He said, too often, Black history is not recorded. It's forgotten about. This keeps us from knowing what direction to go in the future. And then he made this prophetic statement. You might not have the Black Panther Party, but you have the Uhuru House. You might not have the Black Panther newspaper, but you have the burning spear. So they really haven't done anything by crushing one organization. Extremely important. And it is testimony to the significance of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. Because Huey didn't say, you might not have the Black Panther Party, but you have an anniversary celebration. He didn't assume that history ended with the defeat and destruction of the Black Panther Party. He said, but you have the Uhuru House. You have the Burning Spear newspaper. And he says, which goes to show you that despite the fact they've crushed one organization, that the movement continues. It's alive. That history has to be understood so that we know what direction to go in. And it's important to say that because with the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 1960s, so much of what was supposed to be progressive and revolutionary in our communities found themselves now not depending and relying on our own self-organization, on the organization of the masses of African people, but rather relying on the goodwill of the colonizer, of the goodwill of the oppressor, and found ourselves becoming the base of the Democratic Party. Because we heard before this election, what are we gonna do if Hillary Clinton is not elected? We heard that from many people who call themselves progressives and leftists. And they weren't making this complaint if Obama doesn't get elected, or if Hillary doesn't get elected, then we don't have anything to do. It was clear what you do. It was clear that the future was going to be determined by African people ourselves in our own organization, the Black Panther Party, and the various other organizations that existed at the time, in the Uhuru movement, in Jomo, and now in the African People's Socialist Party. So I just wanted to open up with that. I think it's crucial for us to get that, because the African People's Socialist Party is the only organization that understood that we weren't trying to solve some problem about better welfare or something to that effect. We said we were going to what? Complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s, because there was a revolutionary movement. So we had built a revolutionary movement where African people were not cringing and praying, oh God, let a good Democrat or good white person get elected this year. We built our own organization in our communities. We empowered the most oppressed sectors of our community. And the young people were not people who were being chased from pillar to post, by police in this country without some kind of organized response. People weren't saying, hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter. They were joining the revolutionary movement in the housing projects and all of these other places where people are being victimized and from where they're being shipped into prisons throughout this country. And that's what we understood had to happen again. Not to get a good place in the Democratic Party, not to make friends with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton doesn't have any friends. And so I think it's really important for us to understand what just happened, because I haven't seen any evidence that anybody understands what happened, and I don't think Donald Trump understands what the hell just happened. Going into this, during this electoral process, we used to hear this idea of there being some kind of, I think they call it an excitement deficit, enthusiasm deficit. Usually when they talked about that, they meant just within the Democratic Party. Enthusiasm deficit for Hillary as compared to Sanders, the false, the phony, the ersatz, demagogic, so-called socialists. And they were talking about an enthusiasm deficit. But the truth of the matter is, while there was an enthusiasm deficit, they missed the point. It was not a deficit between Sanders and Hillary Clinton. It was a deficit between the masses of white people who followed Sanders and followed Trump and Hillary Clinton and the traditional Democratic Party. That's where the deficit was, because you saw masses of white people who were coming out to Sanders rallies. Thousands of them would come to rallies, and then you see these tepid kind of responses coming from the Democratic Party to Hillary Clinton as comparison. Then you had thousands of people who were coming to Trump. And what had been happening, and we have to say this, is that the most active sector of the white population in this country had been mobilized. They were mobilized for Sanders and they were mobilized for Trump, those who were active. And in the Democratic Party, what you had was a smaller sector of white people, intellectuals, middle class, petty bourgeois forces, and 25% of the Democratic Party base Black people. And Black people are there because they're scared of Trump, because they're scared of whomever the Republican Party is. Not because the Democrat, Hillary Clinton offered us nothing except continuation of what Obama had done. And if you want more of that, you have to be insane, right? But at least it was assumed to be better than what Trump was going to bring. And so what, of course, when Trump was going to make America great again, everybody understood the code. Make America white again. Make America openly, nakedly white again. Destroy what they call political correctness, where you have to be concerned about what Black people or Mexicans or anybody else say. Because Trump didn't do anything different or didn't promise anything different from what the Democrats were already doing. He just said it. And Trump talks about building a wall on the one hand, while Obama has kicked out more Mexicans than all the presidents in the past. And this was an extraordinary thing to behold. But more than that, the greater contradiction is the fact that even as Trump was talking about a wall, it was obscuring the real contradiction. And the real contradiction is that the United States, this entity that's calls itself the United States government, has stolen at gunpoint half of Mexico. I mean, that's extraordinary. Trump said he's going to build a wall, and everybody says, wow, Trump. Not everybody, all the liberals. You know, Trump is anti-Mexican. He's horrible because he's going to build a wall. But hell, the United States stole half of Mexico and then drew an artificial border there that declared anybody who was on the other side of this border that they created was illegal if you come in. So Mexicans who used to live in what they now call Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, etc., they used to live there. Now, when they come to get there from this across this artificial border, they're illegal. And so this big thing has been made about building a wall to keep them out of there. And this has something to do with the current debate and struggle that's happening in this country and around the world, because the question still is before us: what is it that gave Trump? What is it that thrust Trump to this place? Some people talk about how he's just some reality show figure, and that's the thing that did it. Well, he is the reality show figure, but he was a successful reality show figure because that's where the consciousness of the people in this country had been pushed. So this is what people were, if the white ruling class has a complaint about that, what they're complaining about is something that they created on purpose. Dumb the masses down. Keep the people separated from an understanding of the conditions that impact their lives every day. Because Africans catch hell in this country and around the world. And Mexicans catch hell in this country and on the other side of the border. And there's a group that never even gets spoken of, they call them Indians, who are living in concentration camps that they euphemistically refer to as Indian reservations. They catch hell. They have a lifespan in the 40s. This is the reality of America, but nobody's supposed to say anything about that. Nobody's supposed to say anything about this reality too. And I just want to say this, and moving forward, that an election in this country, this institution that's held up to be representative of the greatest democratic experiment on earth, an election in this country is simply a non-violent contest between different sectors of the white ruling class for control of the state to their economic benefit. That's what an election is. It never has been anything else. And all this nonsense. And Trump helped to bring it out. He says, they do what the white people with the money tell them to do. I know, because I used to tell them what to do. Didn't he say that? He dragged it out. He said, I told Hillary and I told Bill to be at my daughter's wedding, and they were there because I gave them the money to be there. This is what he said. And this was something that was causing all kinds of consternation within sectors of the ruling class too, because he's taken the covers off of this relationship that exists in the real world in terms of the electoral process. They don't work for you. They work for the white rulers of this country. But the other thing is this, that capitalism as a social system, this system that seems to have thrust white people to the highest pinnacle of historical civilization from their perspective. Capitalism is not something that was simply visited upon white people, upon Europe and America by some god, some entity out there in extraterrestrial spaces. Capitalism was born through slavery and through colonialism. When we talk about the wall that hasn't been built, the process of creating capitalism was taking that land that's called Mexico, taking half of it. This was a part of the process. When he talks about a law and order candidate, he's talking about the same thing that Bill Clinton said when he told the white people, I'll put 100,000 new policemen in the streets of this country. Everybody knew it was to control black people. Why? Because African people, the enslavement of African people, is part and parcel of what gave rise to the entire social system. And structures, economic and political structures, have been created to maintain this parasitic relationship that feeds white people while taking food away from masses of oppressed peoples around the world. So new cars roll down expansive highways throughout this country and Europe as a consequence of minerals and oil and what have you that comes from places that are held under European and white domination. That's the objective reality that we're confronted with. That's what's happening now. It's been a good racket. It's been a good setup. It's been a good racket. Just think about it. You know, I got mine the old-fashioned way. You understand? You heard that garbage, you know, I work for it. You don't even know what work is. You don't know what work is? Come to the black community. We did it. We know what the work is. You understand? But the old-fashioned way has been looting and pillage. So they've constructed this economic reality, this political reality, because you know that a society is comprised of both an economic base and what is called a superstructure. The economic base is how the society gets all of its resources. And the superstructure are the institutions, the philosophy, the ideology, the political institutions that come into existence off of this economic base. So if you've got an economic base that comes from slavery and colonialism, all the schools that you go to are going to teach the greatness and justification of slavery and colonialism. You say, they don't teach me black history. Hell no, they can't teach you black history. They cannot teach you black history. And as long as we've been fighting for black history since the 1960s, you can't find it anywhere because they can't teach it. They can't teach it because to teach black history is to say that America is what it is because we raped Africa. We raped African people. We raped African women. We created the worst kinds of brutality and created this falsehood of who black people are. So it cannot criticize itself. So it criticized the person who has been raped. It criticized us. You shouldn't have worn your clothes, your dress so tight. You understand? You shouldn't have done this or that. You should not wear your clothes sagging, etc. Here is the rapist. Here is the oppressor explaining reality based on the interests of the oppressor. Do you see what I'm saying? And so you got economic base, you got this superstructure that feeds it. And what people think here is influenced by this economic basis. So you don't have a whole bunch of white people running around saying, you know, well, I'm sympathetic. You know, I think it's bad, you know, that this stuff happened to you, but they don't say, well, look, you know, we took the Indians' land, you know, we got rich off black people, let's stop packing this stuff up and taking it back to them. You don't hear the preachers saying that. You don't hear these religious moralists saying that. You don't hear constitutionalists saying that. You don't hear none of your white friends saying that. You don't hear your white girlfriends saying that. Nobody is saying, let's fix this damn thing based on this objective reality. So what do? They blame you. And then you got friends who take up that line and blame you too. They say, well, if we did it to ourselves. I'll be damned if we did this to ourselves. There was no suicide here. This was mass murder. You understand? And this is what you know. So you've got an economic base, and then from this base, you have the ideas. You have the culture, the institutions, and what have you. People saying, you know, where did racism come from? Racism comes from this relationship. It responds to a practical world. It's not just white people got bad ideas. White people got ideas that justify them having every damn thing at the expense of Africans and everybody else. It's a response to a material reality. And we are materialists in the African People's Socialist Party. We don't hear no ooga-booga-ism. You understand? We are materialists. We want to get to the world just as it is, not just the way we want it to be. Let's explore the world, the real world, if we're going to get out of this situation. So why is Trump now there? Why is it that masses of white people, not just here, look at what's happening all over Europe. Look at Brexit. Look at what Trump liked to talk about. Look at the rise of the right wing, the populist right wing, as they characterize it, in England. In Sweden, in Switzerland, in all these good places where the white socialism is supposed to exist. Look at it happening all around the world, and I'll tell you why it's happening. It's happening because this setup this comfortable relationship that has bestowed upon the white people of the world the vast wealth and resources from the rest of humanity, it is in a state of stress now. Why is it being stressed out? Because people all around the world are fighting and taking back their resources. That's why you see perpetual warfare. That's why Obama's sending drones and murdering people at weddings and funerals and stuff like that. That's why there has to be ongoing war, because the people in Afghanistan want their stuff back for them. The people in Venezuela want their oil for them. And people around the world are trying to take back their resources, and because the system itself, the economic system, is parasitic. It's a parasitic social, born as a parasite. So when people take their resources back, it has a serious impact. People tell me about a housing bubble, my ass. No, the bubble is one that's being exploded by IEDs in Afghanistan and in Iraq. People are fighting back to take back their resources, and they're demonized. They can't tell you, look, the reason this stuff is going on in Saudi Arabia, because there used to not be a thing called Saudi Arabia. Used to not be this place that we now call Lebanon, that we call Syria. Didn't exist like that until white people created it. And the French and the British carved up this territory. And the existence of the Kurds and whatever, who were left out of the deal when they carved up these territories. They don't tell you that. And then they put their own stooges there, and they put them there for the exact purpose of being able to control the people there so they can get the oil and get all the other resources. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that they hand you this most nonsensical story about this reactionary entity in the Middle East. And that you're supposed to be sympathetic, the shining city on the hill, where white people who have come to understand, just like the Belgians understood and sent people into Congo and took that oil, that land and resources so they can grow Belgium, just like the British understood when Cecil Rhodes said that I see white people in the cities demonstrating and threatening to burn everything down, and it came to me that if England is to be saved, we have to become imperialists. They understood in that a group of white people that in order to advance their interests, they needed to steal somebody's land and become imperialists too. And so you have this concoction of this extraordinary story. They don't tell you that. They tell us that God, 2,000 years ago, gave some land to a group of white people who didn't exist at 2,000 years ago, and gave it to them and their chosen people. And so now these poor people who were exterminated by Germany deserve the land of the Palestinian people. And so you got this, and they don't say that the reason we need these white people there is because we need a group of white people who are not Arabs, who can control and make sure that we continue to get this oil and can protect all of our interests there. And they ship billions of dollars worth of guns and resources there and telling you that you're protecting somehow God's chosen people. God gave it. Your God is a realtor. We should call him Lou Brown God, or Lou God Brown, or some other realtor, etc. Which is nonsense, isn't it? They don't even believe that. They don't even mean that. If they were honest, if they were really trying to solve the problem of the Jewish people, what would they have done? If they wanted them to have a homeland, they would have given them Frankfurt or Berlin, because those are the people who killed them and maimed them and murdered them, not the Palestinian people. You know? But they didn't do that. And so now what you have, all of Europe and Greece and Portugal. You know, Portugal was one of the biggest slavers in the world, one of the first slavers. Portugal, 600 years ago, it was Portugal who initiated the enslavement of African people. 600, we've been fighting this battle for 600 years as a consequence of Portugal going into Africa and kidnapping African people, right? And so all of Europe Even if they didn't engage in slavery, and I can't think of any that didn't. But even if they didn't do it directly, they participated in a world economy that was given birth by enslaving your grandmammy, by enslaving us, by taking somebody else's land and resources. That's where it all comes from. And even as they were doing that, they got you to singing, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty." They wrote constitutions that said you were 3/5 of a human being when they did it. So now what is happening is all these people everywhere are fighting to take back their resources. And because of that, it's creating a serious crisis all over the white world. And this is the thing that has spurred white people everywhere. How the hell are we going to stop this? You know, what it means is, I'm not doing this because I don't like black people. I'm doing this because the Mexicans are taking my job. You understand? I'm not doing this because I don't like Mexicans. I'm doing this because all my jobs are going away. I'm doing this because I don't have access anymore to my retirement. You know, I used to be able to retire. Well, hell, nobody else was retiring but y'all. Y'all was the only damn people who was retiring. We retired in the damn grave. We retired at the funeral home. You understand? And they talk about this socialism that existed in Europe. Where does this socialism come from? Because the amount of wealth that they're expropriating from all of the African world, that's where their socialism came from. But it didn't come for me. It didn't come for African people who were suffering in all these different places. And so now, as the struggle of the people intensify to take back their resources, the white world is upset. Students can't get the damn loans anymore. You know, and so now you have all the students in an uproar. They're saying, we are the 99%. Well, since when? You weren't part of the damn 99% when I was trying to get white boots extracted from my ass. When did you become part of the 99%? And of course, they became part of the 99% when they began to feel the pinch, like everybody else is beginning to feel the pinch. And so, this is not, by the way, an anti-white discussion. What it is a discussion that says that if white people can't solve their problem by electing Donald Trump. That's not the solution. How we solve the problem is by rectifying the relationship that this whole white world has with the rest of the people on earth, because there are many, many, many more of us than there are of them. And so what you have to do is rectify this relationship. How does it feel being an outsider? You know, even if you are the most superior, supreme, beautiful, talented outsider, you damn outsider. How does it feel? You know, knowing that everybody want a piece of that. You understand? That you can't pass by a dark alley. You understand? How does it feel, you know, permanently, you know, having that kind of experience with the rest of the world? Why not join everybody else? But the problem is that they didn't have anybody that tough to join, that tough, that much. The white left deserted. White left, you can't find a white communist or white left organization in the white community. Here, because they're over here fighting us. Who's gonna lead black people? And that's out of the question. You know, there's enough white people leading us. That ain't happening no more. That ain't happening no more. What you better do is get on this damn train if you want to overturn this thing. Because yes, white women are oppressed. And yes, white homosexuals are oppressed. And yes, white workers are exploited, but it's white power that does it. The same oppressor that oppresses us that's doing that. And the fundamental contradiction around which all of these things revolve is the oppression of nations by nations. It's that you have a white nation, a European nation that lives at the expense of other nations. That's why we can't let them keep calling us some kind of race. We are a nation of people. We're a nation of African people. And the thing is that you become clear on that, and you understand that the primary contradiction is that which exists between oppressor and oppressed nations. And anybody who wants to be on the right side of history must join with the oppressed nations to overturn this relationship. That's the way we get to the question of oppression of white women. You can't just go there. If you look for a solution to the oppression of white women, you're just looking for a solution at the expense of the enslaved, the colonized, and everybody else in the world. Ain't no white homosexuals gonna make it at the expense of every damn body else. Ain't no black people all around the world gonna be working so that you can pay your damn student loan. You must be crazy. You understand? You got to join with everybody else to overturn white power. That's the only way to get free. But the people don't come to that easily because they're fed all kind of garbage and nonsense all the time, all the time. That's why the significance of a revolutionary party is so much. That's why it's what we do and what we've done. It's so important. And so here you have a situation. Let's look at it a little bit. We don't have a lot of information yet. Some of the data still has to be filtered through. But a couple of observations can be made. Most of the whole white ruling class was opposed to Trump. Y'all saw that. Most of the white media was opposed to Trump. Even the white media that's supposed to be conservative media was opposed to Trump. Everything out there was opposed to Trump. The white people, you saw them on TV, the talking heads, opposed to Trump. You saw this terrible CIA agent, Chris Cuomo, setting up the situation, opposed to Trump. All of them. And they didn't want Trump elected because when this election kicked off, the thing is that Trump was the only independent. I mean, some people call themselves independent, but Trump was really the only independent because he had enough money to be independent, right? He didn't have as much as he said he got, but he got enough. You understand? He got more than you and me. You know, he had enough money to be independent. And what that meant was that the typical bourgeois establishment that controls the electoral process were not able to control him. But the ruling class was split. That's why there were 17 people who were running for the Republican nomination alone. They represented different sectors of the white ruling class. That's who funded them. And Trump kept talking about, you were funded by these other people here. I'm the only one who's not funded by them, right? And so since they couldn't get their program over, they couldn't be certain that they were going to have their program because Trump was free from them. He didn't have to do what they wanted them to do, and he didn't. And so Trump, and don't make no mistake about it, Trump is not your friend. Trump is not your friend. White power is not your friend. Imperialism, capitalism is not your friend, and Trump is a billionaire. But here's what Trump did. First of all, Trump said, I ain't got no problem with Putin. That's a real question for them, because Putin is challenging their hegemony in this entire region of the world. And they've been trying to crush Russia because Russia can be a real competitor. They got all the energy, they got all this stuff, and Russia is influential in certain parts of the Middle East, etc. And also, if Germany and much of Europe is not afraid of the United States, they will make deals with Russia. And that minimizes the United States' influence and power, etc., etc. So here Trump is saying Putin's all right with me. You understand? And then you have a situation where Trump has said that NATO need to pay for themselves. Here you got the so-called North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was created as an anti-communist entity to allow the imperialists to continue to control the world. And so the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Trump said that they need to pay for their own defense. You know, we don't need to pay for their defense. Do you know how many trillions of dollars are tied up into the arms industry? Do you understand what I'm saying? It ain't because they think Russia is a threat. It ain't even because they're scared of what they call terrorism. But as long as they can keep the people here afraid of terrorists and afraid of war, then you give them permission to go out and spend trillions of your dollars on guns and arms, give money to Boeing and all these other big corporations that create all of these weapons and stuff around the world. You think it's got something to do with what you call morality, but they ain't got no morality. What it is about is that they want this money to keep flowing. These are trillions of dollars. Look at the U.S. budget. How many trillions of dollars have gone just in armament? Who are they fighting? They're not even fighting another country with those kinds of weaponry. They're killing poor people in Afghanistan. They're killing poor people in Iraq. They're killing poor people who don't even have, who have to, if they want to fight back, they got to tie a bomb. They don't have smart bombs except as smart as the person who are tied onto themselves and walk into a building and kill everybody. And then they call them terrorists because they would put a strap in, but you got some 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old white kid somewhere in Colorado who is sending off smart bombs by computer, killing people in Afghanistan and every place, but they're not terrorists. They're not terrorists. So the terrorist is this poor person who ain't got a damn thing and just trying to get Uncle Sam out of their business, out of their lives, so that they can live however the hell they want to live. I don't care how they want to live. Let them live how they want to live. I don't care if they're Muslim, atheists, I don't care who they are. People got a right to live on their own terms. So, Clinton is tied to the arms industry. All of them are tied to the arms industry. So you've got this comfortable kind of established economic situation. And all the politicians, everybody play heed to it. Now, some of you may be confused by what you read in the St. Petersburg Times, because after all what you've heard, there's something about freedom of press. And you ain't never had no free press. You understand? The same kinds of corporations for the ruling class that owns Boeing, that owns the war industry, own the media too. There are 6 or so media outlets that control 90% of what you hear in the media. These are major corporations. They sleep with the arms industry. Chris Cuomo, when he goes to cocktail parties, he goes to the same cocktail parties that the Clintons go to, that the arms dealers go to. They're all in bed together. It's a very incestuous relationship that we're looking at. It's the bourgeoisie, it's white power, it's capitalism. And so this is why, all of them are opposed to Trump. And Trump doesn't say it the way it's supposed to be said, because the way Trump says it mobilizes you. They don't want you mobilized, they want you to sleep. And Hillary rocks you to sleep. Obama rocks you to sleep. And Obama will come out and tell you, and y'all should slap him when y'all see him after he gets out of office, because you can't slap him while he's in office. Obama will come and tell you that if you don't vote for Hillary, what do he say? It's an insult to his legacy. Well, wait a minute. When my legacy allows my children to have the same chances in life that your children has, Obama. You understand? You understand? When my legacy allows my wife to have the same chances in life that your wife has, you understand? Then we can talk some legacy talk, but don't talk to me about your legacy, Negro. You understand? That's what we have to say. Yeah. Who the hell are you, nigga? Your legacy, your legacy, your legacy. No, 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 no. Don't work that way. And one thing that happened, so you saw that this election was a repudiation of Obama. It was a repudiation of Hillary. It was a repudiation of Jay-Z. Yeah, all of them. You understand? And it was an incredible situation that we just saw. Somebody say, I gotta say something about Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? It was a repudiation, and so all that Black Panther parading she didn't help at all. You understand? Huey told people what they should do if they understood history. He said, you don't have the Black what you have, the Uhuru House. You understand? Yeah. Somebody should have given the memo to Beyonce and Jay-Z and the rest of them. We got the Uhuru House. Now Hillary's a pig. She's a real pig, and this is one of the nicest things I can say about her. It's really a nice thing. I've never seen a person like Hillary. I really haven't. You know, this is a person who is a pathological liar. You know what I mean? I mean, she's got an illness. I mean, she can't help it. You know, ask Hillary what's happening, she'll lie. You understand? If you want to know if Hillary is telling the truth, see if her lips are moving. You understand? But she's a pig. Let me tell you, y'all just heard that these so-called hacked emails that they wanted to put on the Russians. If Hillary lost, the Russians did it. Y'all heard that Hillary, you know, they created this Clinton Foundation. You heard about that. And this foundation is supposed to be a charitable foundation, paid for Chelsea's wedding. Did you know that? It didn't just pay for her wedding, it gave her 10 years living expenses. Now, wait a minute, what the hell? I mean, okay, I don't know what 10 years is for you. I mean, you might make 15, 20,000 if you're lucky, $30,000 a year. 10 years for Chelsea Clinton ain't no $10,000, $15,000 a year. You understand that? Gave 10 years living expenses to Chelsea Clinton. Now, the Clinton Foundation was one of the first to go into Haiti. In fact, Obama turned Haiti over to William Jefferson Clinton after the earthquake there that killed thousands of our people. And the same United Nations that Clinton sent into Haiti brought cholera, a disease that never existed in Haiti before. And so I'm reading the newspaper now, and my people in Haiti are starving. I mean, literally starving, eating grass and stuff like that. And here's the money, billions of dollars that were supposed to go to them that came from people all around the world, providing 10 years living expenses for Chelsea Clinton. That's horrible. That's criminal. Don't tell me about no Donald Trump. I mean, Trump has to live a long time to be as dirty, do stuff as dirty as the Clintons have done. I can tell you stories about the Clintons, but I won't go into about Congo and other places where they have tread, about the 100,000 cops that killed Tyrone Lewis and killed Freddie Gray and killed all these other African people around the country. And those they didn't kill, they stuff them in these prisons so that men and women don't have husbands and daughters and sons because they're locked up in these damn prisons today. This is what the Clintons have done. And then nobody talks about this. Not your white liberal friends. Nobody talks about this. They tell you ain't got no choice except to vote for Hillary Clinton. And Hillary, you saw it. She participated and actually helped to initiate the attack on Africa. In this instance, I'm talking about North Africa. I'm talking about Libya. Libya, the most successful African state on the continent of Africa. They attacked it. And Hillary, you saw her on television laughing about it, saying, we came, we saw, he's dead. These are the beasts that your liberal white friends tell you had to vote for. Yeah. And they said, but you can't go for Trump because he felt up a white woman. That must have been what he was talking about. They said Trump felt up a white woman. That must have been what they were talking about, because all the black people that the Clintons have been killing, women, children, etc., they weren't saying a damn thing about them. They didn't care nothing about no women. They cared about women, all those African women who you see trying to get out of our Africa because of the trauma that's been created by the Clintons. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. Anyway, so that's what we're looking at. So now you got Trump. And even as Trump doesn't make a fundamental difference Because the problem was not the Democrats or Republicans, they call it a duopoly. There was no duopoly. Everybody who saw this election saw that it was one group against what Trump was doing. Democrats became, Republicans became, who became Democrats. Republicans didn't want Trump in. They were trying to help get him, make sure that he didn't get elected. All of that stuff didn't make any difference. But our problem is that we are in a situation, have been in a situation, where we put our future in the hands of the Democratic Party, of the electoral system itself. And we didn't do this voluntarily. It happened because they killed Malcolm X. It happened because they assassinated Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King demonstrated against Republicans and Democrats. You understand? For the interests of African people. And Malcolm X was quite clear. He says, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not even an American, and got sense enough to know it. You understand? And so, you had a whole different perspective when we had a strong movement speaking for ourselves. But at that moment, when they kill off our leaders and they put these old mealy-mouthed simpletons, the Darusans, what's this charlatan, Al Charlatan, and the Jesse Jackals, and all these people who teach you militant prayers to say while somebody clubbing you to death. Are these young clowns who are out there going, hands up, don't shoot, or Black Lives Matter? Who the hell are you talking about, Black Lives Matter? If Black Lives Matter, you would be fighting for black power, right? That's the only way you make Black Lives Matter, right? And so, so we have a movement that has been rudderless. And that's the work that the African People's Socialist Party has been doing. And I want to thank all of the members of the African People's Socialist Party, everybody in the Uhuru movement stretching all across the globe who participated in making it possible for our people to have a response to this election regardless of who went into power. And we saw that a profound weakness was that no matter who got elected, you don't have your own agenda. What has happened is you're like a hitchhiker. And this time you're catching a ride with the Democratic Party. You used to catch a ride with the Republican parties. After slavery, most of us went into the Republican Party, good old Master Abe Lincoln. And then the Republicans double-crossed us. That's when the Ku Klux Klan came into existence. And now we in the party of the first black president, which was Clinton, which is also the party of George Wallace, which is also the party of every other reactionary that's been out there. And so we hitch a ride with them. We don't have our own vehicle. We hitch a ride with the Democratic Party. So wherever the Democratic Party goes, that's where you got to go because you're in their car. I don't give a damn where did you say you want to go, but this is where that thing is going. So the problem is not that you're a Democrat or Republican. The part is that you don't have your car, or you're not aware of your car. And we're saying there is a vehicle here. Huey said it 30 years ago. You might not have the Black Panther Party, but you got the Uhuru House. And it was the Uhuru House and the African People's Socialist Party that's been organizing for a while, helped to build the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. I don't know how many people here in 2008, when Obama's first trip came through here when he was running for office, and we were waiting for his black ass over there at Gibbs High School. And all we asked was a simple question: what about the black community? You know, anybody remember that? Anybody remember how all the Negroes were so upset? Everybody jumped on us. All we asked is, what about the black community? Why are you upset because somebody asked about your interests? Why are you upset because somebody said they don't have you on the agenda? What about the black community? What about black people, Obama? Simple question. We didn't just discover this contradiction, and we've been working. And we helped to build the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice and Reparations, which was really important because they slid Obama in on us. And you sisters thought that he looked good. Y'all heard y'all. Yes, y'all did. Y'all said he's so fine. That's what y'all said. Yeah. And I heard brothers talking about Michelle say, I support her because she got nice arms. What you planning to do, eat them? You're going to need something. So we've been working to build the Black is Back Coalition of Social Justice, Peace, and Reparation because we had to bring all of these Africans back together because we've been splintered and we have Democratic Party. That's where we were most active politically. We got to rebuild the whole movement for Black power so people can fight in our own interests so we can identify and say, this is what we want, and then build a strategy to achieve it. So we've been working. We've been pulling together these Black organizations all around the country. And so we had, when the Republicans and the Democrats had their convention, well, we said we got to have convention too. And so because they didn't talk about you, they did not mention you. If Trump hadn't said Black people, you wouldn't have heard anything about Black people. And Trump said, what you got to lose? You're getting killed, you're getting shot, you ain't got nothing, what you got to lose, right? And so we've been working and we built our own conventions. We said we got to have a convention, we got to have an agenda, because we don't have an agenda. Even if you want to tell them something, even if you want to depend on them, what do you want them to do? You don't have an agenda, right? So we organized through the coalition, we organized a declaration and a 19-point agenda, national Black political agenda for self-determination. Not just any kind of agenda, not an agenda to get on the white people's list, not an agenda for white people to treat us good, but an agenda for self-determination. Self-determination. We have to be a self-governing, self-determining people in control of our own affairs. Because people say, are you scared that Trump was elected? Yeah, but I was scared before Trump. I was scared when Obama was there. I was scared when all of them was there. And the reason I was scared was because we were not organized to take care of our own business and to deal with whatever came our way. I'd be scared if the Green Party was there. The fact is that we have to have our own power. So we said, this is our agenda. We had a national preparatory conference in Philadelphia in April 13th and 14th. And then we spread out. And then we had state conventions in Florida, in Texas, in Alabama, in Pennsylvania, in Kansas, in Missouri. Somebody tell me where I left that. Washington, D.C., New York, New Jersey. We had state conventions where people united with this national Black political agenda for self-determination. Black people came together. These are our conventions. White people just had conventions, damn it. Didn't say nothing about us. This is our convention, right? So at the state convention, then say, what we're going to do now is we're going to Washington, D.C., and we're going to have a national convention. And we went to Washington, D.C. on the 5th and the 6th of this month. Just got back last week, this Monday. Just got back. Went to Washington, D.C. and said, our convention is going to be 2 days, but it's going to be a convention of resistance. On the first day of this convention, we're going to have a rally at Malcolm X Park. What better place to have it? Malcolm X Park, because y'all thought y'all got rid of us when you killed Malcolm. And we had a convention, we had the first day a rally, Malcolm X Park. And you know who spoke at that rally? Mothers of Black sons and children who had been murdered by this government all around this country. The mother of what's the young woman who was shot while holding up her baby? Say it again. That's her. The woman who, y'all saw it on here, the woman who did this video when the police were messing with her and she had a little boy in the back seat. Well, they charged her with a traffic offense, and then they came to her house later on and brought a SWAT team to deal with a traffic offense, and they killed this child and wounded her baby. You know, this is what they did. She was there. The mother, Kunde, dear comrade, sister Kunde was there, whose child was, the 16-year-old child was with the two 15-year-olds, drowned by the Pinellas County Sheriff Department on March 31st. She spoke. She didn't have a place on the Democratic Party convention platform or the Republican Party convention platform. We had other sisters came from everywhere who stood up on that platform and spoke to people and said, this is what has happened to us, and that they're still in pain, from Huntsville, Alabama, from other places, from Texas, and every place. One person from Missouri, St. Louis, one sister was there, the police shot her son 21 times. You understand? So these are the people who had a place to speak. And then we marched on the White House. And they did everything they could to stop us from marching on the White House. And it was something to behold, because we had a line of march, just several hundred people. I look back, it was a good march. I couldn't even see the end of the march. And then when we got to the White House, after they had tried to close off the park where we were going to have the other rally, they had snipers on the top of the roof. Did you know that? Here, you got freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and they got snipers standing up on top of the roof of the White House to deal with people who just come there to deliver a national black political agenda for self-determination. And then the next day, of course, at Howard University, we had the last day of our convention. And this is the thing that means that African people are not disarmed. This is the thing that means no matter what happened on yesterday, that we now have our own agenda. And so Hillary didn't get elected. And those of you who depended on Hillary are in bad shape. Unless, of course, you adopt this agenda that the masses of African people have already said is our agenda. This is what we fight for, and you don't do it every 4 years, you do it every damn day. This is our agenda. You know what's on the top of that? Have you seen the National Black Political Agenda? You know what? What do you think should be the first item on the top of that agenda?
What do I think the first?
What you think should be? Say it. I'll tell you what was on the first. Huh? I'll tell you what was on the first item on that. What you going to say, brother? I'll tell you what was on the first item on that thing was black women.
Yes.
Black women, black women, black women. It was a declaration of the commitment to that by the black community to make sure that black women are empowered and able to put your own handprint on what the future is going to look like. That was the first item on the agenda. That was the first thing on the agenda. And then on the agenda, we said that what we have to have is the immediate withdrawal of the police department from our communities and black community control of the police. Black community control of the police. We said we want reparations. We want payback for all the damn work we've done. The white people have been living off our welfare for 400 years. We want payback. We said that we want to see the nationalization of the banks. So that the banks that's been in the end of capitalism. We said that what we have to have is the opening up these prison doors. Let our people out of these damn prisons. We want the people out of the prison. We said that we demand the right to vote, but not just the right to vote. That's one thing. What the difference doesn't make the vote if you ain't got nothing to vote for, right? So we said that we also demand, in relationship to that we have to have proportional representation. If there is 13% of the African population, if there's this number, then we need that many seats in whatever kind of government that exists anywhere in this country. We need to be guaranteed that we have that kind of power. Governors. Wherever it's located, that's the kind of power that we have to fight for. There were some other things on there. Somebody say some of the other things. Quickly. Say it again. We spoke about the black family. That's been under assault from the very beginning. We got here as an attack on the black family. Did you know that? When they snatched us up, they left, sometimes they left mamas behind, daddies behind. They split mamas and daddies and brothers and sisters and shipped us all these them. We never had access to our family. They want to tell us that we need some kind of learn how to be a good family and stuff like that. You ain't never allowed us to be the family that we supposed to be. We ain't never been able to have the family. I mean, these are just Some, and I'm just really touched with. They were 19, just powerful. We say we want this country got to pay its debt to Africa. Y'all done stole all this stuff from Africa. We want you to pay Africa everything that you're in debt to Africa. We say we want the end of this money that's going to this illegitimate state called Israel. It's ended. I mean, they send billions of dollars to Israel. You can't get a penny in your community, and they sending all this damn money to prop up that illegitimate state there. Yeah, and there were a whole bunch of other things on there that's really important to our communities. Say it again. And gentrification. I'm going to say gentrification. Because our communities, you notice how you look up all the white people, their dogs just running through your community. Where you used to have a community, you ain't got no damn community no more. And the objective is to push the African people out of the communities. They call it integration. It's gentrification that's happening to our community. We need to end that. People need to have a right to live in their communities. The place where I was born doesn't exist anymore. Your child, you can't take your child back to the neighborhood you were born in most of the time and say, look, this is where me and your daddy got married. This is where somebody, they don't exist no more. It's not there for you anymore. And that's true. Harlem is majority white. Can you imagine that? Washington, D.C., majority white. It does not just white, but they've pushed our people out. And this is a part of the whole. So we oppose to that. Free education. We said that we need free education from the beginning all the way through college. It ain't really free. We already paid for it. Free health care. Not this garbage that Obama and the insurance companies got together in a dark room and put out there to make money for the insurance companies. This is what we've demanded. So we've got our own agenda. And the only reason we're able to do this is because of the existence of the African People's Socialist Party that played a major role in creating the Black is Back coalition. So that means that we have not been absolutely and totally disarmed. It means that we were able to withstand this election, and we're not demoralized because we got an agenda. I would have been demoralized if Hillary had won. If we didn't have a capacity to speak to our own interests, we can identify what do we want? What are we about? So I've spoken a long time. But I want to say that I saw some people who have spoken most recently, and they just can't figure out what the world to do. And I saw people I had a lot of respect for in the 1960s, and they all went to the Democratic Party as opposed to working to build our own capacity, which is what we have to do. And I'm not telling somebody don't be a Democrat, but I am saying whatever you are, you need your own damn program. If you're going to be with the Democrats, everybody else in the Democratic Party got an agenda except you. And so the party has made the fundamental difference in this entire thing. The existence of the African People's Socialist Party, where everybody else was out there wondering and what we're going to do, et cetera. We were the ones saying what we're going to do. We're not depending on catching a ride with somebody. We're building our own car. That's why we got a furniture store in Oakland, California. That's why we build our own furniture. We got to feed and clothe ourselves. Build our own furniture store in Philadelphia. That's why we built our economic base. Okay. We have to be able to feed and clothe and house ourselves. If you're not doing that, just being a Democrat, what the hell is that going to do for you? How do we guarantee that our children are going to have a future? How are they going to be able to eat? We create the capacity to do that. That's our responsibility. Anything other than that is a betrayal to your children and betrayal to those who fought for us in the past. So we create our own capacity. We create our own food industry. We got that. That's what we do. Because we never thought the Democrats were going to do it for us. Never thought that. If we thought that, we wouldn't have had to do it. That's why the NAACP doesn't have a damn thing. Because it relies on integrating with them when you need to have your own. That's what we do. So I just want to say that two things I want to mention. In January 7th through the 9th, we're having a meeting here. It's going to be an international meeting. People, Africans are going to come here from others from around the world. We call it a plenary. It's a planning session. And it's entitled Putting Revolution Back on the Agenda. That's going to be from the 7th through the 9th. And everybody ought to be here. And you ought to get people who you know to be here, because people are going to be dismayed after this election. You know, you got people who've been texting you already, you know, and telling them the passport institutions can't print them fast enough to get out of the country, you know. So this is the place that they need to be. So we're going to be unfolding an entire agenda and promoting the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. So that's January 7th through the 9th. As you know, the inauguration of Trump, I think it's something like the 20th of January. So I'm going to be calling the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations to call on the masses of African people to come to Washington, D.C., probably before that, maybe the weekend before that, bringing a copy of your National Black Political Agenda. We need to organize masses of African people everywhere, because so many of our people are going to be so hurt now. They're actually disillusioned and demoralized because the Democrats lost. The Democrats lost, but the party won. The Democratic lost, you know, but the Woo movement won. You understand? So we need everybody. It seems to me, we can bring all the masses together to unite with this National Black Political Agenda. I think that it will be a powerful thing. So that's something that we're going to be looking into making happen in January as well. I've spoken a long time. I'm going to stop now and open it up for any kind of discussion that any of you may have. And I guess, I don't know how people online will participate. Javon, Timber, can you help me? Anybody here? Any way? You say no one? You already know nobody's got a question. Huh? Uhuru. Okay. Yes, brother. Yes, sir.
Like the white supremacist train, the white nationalist party, all these other white supremacists who are trained in military tactics and stuff like that. And us black people, we don't do nothing. We're gonna be like ducks in a barrel, because we don't know how to fire a weapon, we don't know how to clean a weapon, we don't know anything about anything. I mean, it's like all we know how to do is dance and cause trouble, and I really think we need to be thinking about defending ourselves.
Yeah, I think the question of self-defense is a fundamental question, because one of the things that happens, no matter what it is Trump intends to do, what will happen with this election is that white nationalist sentiments will going to be unleashed across the country. You're going to see white people who never accept you will be in your face now. You will have police departments who might have hesitated doing stuff in the past. Maybe going to be an escalation of that kind of stuff. But I want to say that don't underestimate this community in terms of the capacity for armed self-defense. Please, what's happened is that for a long time, the Otoms have had control of the people, have placed political and ideological constraints on them. But we saw what happened in Dallas, Texas, and that brother, they couldn't approach that brother. They had to send a robot and a bomb because that brother was popping them off so fast. So, and that brother is somebody who just broke free of Al Sharpton and broke free of Trump and all these other problems who say that he's supposed to not do something. And so I do believe, however, that the brother has made a very pertinent point that you cannot rely on the Democratic Party and that you can expect to see an escalation of white aggression in our communities, and the people are going to have to begin the process of preparing for self-defense, defend ourselves, defend our families, etc. And that's going to have to extend beyond simple white individuals who do things like that white man did in the church in South Carolina, but to what the police are doing as well. We're going to have to be able to defend ourselves.
Uhuru Chairman. You know, Trump made a lot of promises, you know, like the wall, building the wall, you know, putting Hillary in jail, you know, canceling out Obamacare. I mean, these are real things that really mobilize, you know, the white people. So it also like saying that some of the Republicans that didn't support him, you know, for this, you know, race that what he was going to do. So how do you see him doing all this? You know, because, you know, politicians talk a lot of shit. I mean, we don't talk a lot of stuff, but when it comes down to really doing it, they can't do it. So how is he gonna really do all these things that really mobilize all these white people to vote for him?
He's gonna do something. I don't think it's likely that Hillary will go to jail, because I don't think that's likely. It's mostly because he will also leave office one day. And you said that precedent, you set yourself up. Also, he's going to do something, but he's not going to be able to do everything. You notice how Hillary wasn't able to control the FBI? You see what happened in this election, that she was not able to control the FBI? That's it, very wrong. That the elections is a non-violent contest between different sectors of the ruling class and control of the state. The FBI is an arm of the state. And Hillary was not able to control the FBI. The FBI apparently, as sector, was already leaning toward Trump ascendancy to power. And the FBI is the only so-called intelligence organization that did not sign on to the lie that the Russians were the ones who were hacking into Hillary Clinton's campaign. You might not know that, but all the others signed on and agreed with that, except for the FBI. That's the same FBI that came out and busted up the department she was trying to have, saying that Mr. Weiner, destroying Mr. Weiner, and that, you know, and what's her name? Yeah, that was something that was available to her. So, to Mr. Weiner. So, I don't think he's necessarily going to be able to do that. I think he may build something like a wall, but that's not going to be the end of it. I also think if he builds a wall, he's going to find a way around the wall, because there's a section of the population that requires this cheaply and poorly paid labor to get into the country, and he needs a certain kind of stability, even with the second of the ruling class. I believe that what you're going to see is people like Giuliani, Christie, and some of the others who are going to go into that administration. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Giuliani become the next Attorney General of the United States. And so you're going to see a lot of those kind of forces who appear there. But I think that the bourgeoisie will work this out. Trump called himself the preeminent deal maker, and I think you're going to see a lot of deal making. That just the game has been changed. That's all. I mean, the way it works. So. There may be some vengeance, but it won't be the kind of bloodletting that one would assume listening to Trump in the beginning. I don't think Hillary is going to jail until we take power. And Hillary and Trump are going to jail. I see you, brother, and somebody else who had the mic.
All right, I don't know. I read this years ago. I guess I was incarcerated, and you know, when you're in there, you have nothing to do but either work out or read.
Yeah.
So what happened was I was reading this book. I don't remember what the book was called, but it was already said and it was written that they would never let a woman be a president because they feel that she's not powerful enough. She doesn't have what it takes. If there was a war to send the soldiers over to do what they need to do, they feel that a woman would be sympathetic. She's too easygoing. She wouldn't have the power that a man would have. So I didn't vote. And I kind of felt bad a little bit after, but coming here, I feel better that I didn't vote. So I just wanted to say that there.
I want to say that Europe in particular, and I include America in that, has been extraordinarily prejudicial against women. I mean, beastly so, horribly so. And they've created all these terrible, nasty notions about the ability of women to lead and hormonal stuff and periods and all this garbage that would justify continuation of using women as slaves in the house and sex slaves and a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, that's peculiar to Europe, but they don't really believe it in the final analysis because what was the name of that white woman who just killed that brother not too long ago? Where was that at? The police woman. And what was the name of the Secretary of State who Madeline Albright, and what was the name of the Janet Vino and the Iron, whatever, out of England? It just is piggish, and capitalist is capitalist. Yeah. An imperialist is an imperialist. It's black, white, you know, Mexican, whatever. If you got one of those people, male, female, homosexual, doesn't matter. J. Edgar Hoover, who was the one that pursued and killed Fred Hampton in the Black Revolution of the 60s, and so many other people, was a homosexual. So all this stuff about whether you homosexual, heterosexual, man, woman, black, white, it doesn't matter in the final analysis of what side of history do you stand on. Do you stand with your oppressed, or do you stand with your oppressor? Do you stand with overturning a system that is inherently vicious toward working people and oppressed people? If you stand on that side, it doesn't matter what sexuality you are. If they can rely on you. Plus, you have to do a lot of dirty stuff to become the president of the United States. They tested you. By the time Obama got there, he done a whole bunch of good stuff. They know that who this nigga was, and whether it's male or woman. Of course, Hillary Clinton has proven herself to be as dirty as any other man. Yes,
my other one thing is like, yeah, I understand about the issues as far as like women's rights and the economy and all that, but I think that we're missing the whole point of defending ourselves, because Trump has emboldened white supremacists, and they're not gonna come to us and just be shouting nigger and all that stuff at us. They're gonna be shooting bullets. And I think we need to defend ourselves. And as us as black people, we're worried about all the wrong stuff. We ain't talking about nothing about, you know, trying to train people self-defense, train people in firearms, train people in survival in the woods or whatever like that, because that's going to be pertinent.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a real war. And like Malcolm X said, the ballot or the bullet. And black people ballot in the bullet, and black people have been talking about, you know, revolution, but we're afraid to bleed, just like he said.
Yeah, well, that's not always been the case. Even with Malcolm and the Nation of Islam that he was a member of, he left the Nation of Islam precisely because they were afraid to bleed. But there were others bleeding at that time. That's part of what pushed Malcolm in a very serious way. And it was the Black Panther Party that was so influenced by Malcolm. It was Jomo in this city that was so influenced by Malcolm, and that kind of training did happen. I want to say that I agree that we should defend ourselves and begin to train and plan for that. But the U.S. military has already begun the training process. That was the other thing I was going to mention to you. Like the brother in Dallas, the brother in Baton Rouge, they have been trained. Who's trained them? The U.S. military. They come back, they come back to our community. They came back and I've been trained by them. I mean, not community, I don't work with them, but I know how they work, and I know how to do what they, when I learned it for our purposes. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, and there are a lot of Africans out there. Look, you catch airplanes, you travel much by air.
Yes, I was in the military.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. What branch of the military are you on? What was your influence?
71 Golf Base Administration.
What kind of administration? Base administration. Okay. Well, there are a lot of us, you know, grunts, tankers, people who are in this community. And I'm telling you, brother, I'm telling you as somebody who goes all around this country organizing and talking to people. And first of all, I want to say I unite with you that we need to be organizing and training in what we call self-defense. We call it that if we want to, but our view is this, that we have to have a revolution that overturns the social system. So it's not a question of waiting for somebody to shoot at you. When you colonize, every act that you take is an act of self-defense. You don't have to wait for somebody to shoot at you. You want to overturn this whole damn system. And that's the kind of thing that we have to do, create a military, create a force, a political party, deepen the political party, create the conditions. Because When the United States sent a military force out there, they've already been doing the political work. Before that military even is deployed, they've done the political work. They've done everything they can out there in the world to undermine the forces that they are going to be fighting. They've fractured their economy. They had destroyed the economy of Iraq for 12 years before they even invaded. That you need a political party, a political organization that can create the conditions, set the terms for anything that the military force might be able to do. That's what I'm saying.
How long is it going to take us to do that and get all that organized before these already trained white nationalists?
Yeah.
Getting us off?
Yeah, let me just tell you that you don't set the terms for what you got to do. You got to work with what you got, and that's I'm just saying it won't happen by magic. And believe me when I tell you this, people who have been in worse shape than we are in have been able to succeed in defeating the most powerful military, including the United States. So the problem that we have is not that people are not armed to fight. The problem that we have is people are not armed ideologically and politically to even know that we got stuff to fight around and don't have the organization to do it. That's the primary thing we're doing. So we make the call for people to prepare to defend ourselves, defend our communities, and I believe every man, woman, and child, African man, woman, and child out here needs to be prepared to do that. That's one of the reasons. Let me just say this other thing to you. Because there was a lot of talk about gun control during this entire election process. And one of the persons making the charge was Obama, and of course the Democrats and everybody, gun control, gun control, gun control. But gun control already exists in this country, except it's primarily in your community. Gun control is law that says that a felon can't own a weapon. And because they're going to make nothing so that you can't legally own a weapon. Gun control is a situation where 850,000 black men are stopped in New York to search on a regular basis. Gun control is when you're riding on your bicycle or walking on the street,
Phoenix, Arizona, right here.
To make sure all the time that you don't have a weapon.
saying about land, then the same person is saying they work closely with Europeans. I would have joined them for that.
Say, turn the gun,
So
give
there's
you
like
back
this
groceries.
discussion going
They do
on.
So what's the
everything they
question?
can to make sure that this
Well,
community is
the land
disarmed.
question
And you got
and
liberals,
the
white liberals, and Negro
ask the land
liberals
question.
who contribute
What's
to
the
that
actual
sentiment
Haven't
that
got there yet.
Africans are not
What's the
supposed to
actual
be able to have a gun. That's why even when you see the police kill somebody, they killed the sheriff department, killed this young brother here in the city
I
a
would say
few months
Team Green.
ago. They said that he had a rifle and pointed at him. They shot him 5 times in the back. Then everybody said, oh, he didn't have a rifle, he didn't have a rifle. And that becomes the question, because if you have a rifle, you're supposed to die. They shot Javon Dawson, and then when they killed him, they put a gun by him. Say, well, he had a gun. Every time they do something, they kill him, say, well, he had a gun. And so having a gun is not illegal, first of all. Secondly, they made the gun the critical question so that you begin to denounce gun ownership. You begin to denounce gun possession. And we're saying that every sane African in this country needs at least one gun. And if you have the ability to get a whole bunch of them, you need a bunch of guns. So gun control already exists in this country. It is just controlled by somebody else.
Uhuru Chairman, we have a question from YouTube named Team Grin from Phoenix, Arizona. They said, is there a plan for nation-type land, somewhat like Indian reservations? We've done a lot for this country. We should be tax exempt.
Well, tax exempt and Indian, something like the Indians. I mean, Indians live in concentration camps, so they call reservations. I don't think we're dealing with a real issue there. The issue is that they've stripped the indigenous people of their land. I united with the indigenous people to take every inch of fucking land and take it from their land. It's their land. And this whole Russian empire has been built on killing them, and I got a national homeland in you too, brother. It ain't Arizona. It's called Africa.
Be Africa!
This is not empty slogan here. The reality is Africa is the richest continent in terms of natural resources on the planet Earth. That's why France is there, England is there, Germany is there, China is there, the United States is there. Everybody who can get to Africa is ripping it off except us. Because we want Arizona. We want to have a Section 8 and stuff like that. We got a whole land. And we got all these African people all around the world suffering. And we suffer too because our homeland has been taken. I'm going back. As soon as I take this suffering here out, I'm going back. And this does not mean that we're not going to fight here because we can't leave this sucker yet, because he'll follow you wherever you are to kill you and murder you and take you. So we have a responsibility for ourselves and Africa to defeat it right here. Secondly, we have a responsibility to go back to Africa. We ain't going empty-handed. We going
Uhuru, we have another question from C.W. Hurd in Detroit. Is the 19-point plan expected from the government or from the people?
It's ours. It's ours. The government works against us. It's ours. We work effectively for him to bring the government back. That's what it's about. It's ours. Because the slave and the slave master cannot share power. The slave and the slave master cannot share power. The colonized and the colonizer cannot share power. You see what I mean? If there's going to be a slave master, it has to be a slave. Kill a slave master, get rid of both. Slave and slave master. So,
Uhuru, there is a question from Anamake in Waterloo, Ontario. What can we do moving forward to unite the struggles of African and Native people for revolution, not only in the context of the election, but also Ferguson, Standing Rock, etc.?
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I want to appreciate that question. When we talk about indigenous people, this is coming from one of the indigenous comrades who also is a revolutionary from Canada that we just heard from. And the thing that I really think is important, we talk about this when we talk about the Mexicans. We talk about this when we talk about the indigenous people, because people often ask us, okay, how many of you are there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But once revolution kicks off in this country by African people, it opens the door for revolution everywhere else. Trump's talking about a border. There's not a wall that's big enough, thick enough, high enough that's going to keep those Mexicans from coming over that border once Africans start tearing it up right here. Once the revolution begins full-fledged in this country, it's going to become full-fledged in Mexico and crossing that border to take parts of Mexico. And the same thing is true to the indigenous people. We lock arms with the indigenous people. We stand hip to hip in terms of overturning the social system. And I believe the kind of work that we're trying to do now, the kind of work that the comrade who just called, just emailed us doing, the kind of work that we are doing as a party represents the interests of the people, of the indigenous people and the African people, the Mexican people, and what have you. We have a deep and profound relationship with these forces. That is the process that's already begun. As the revolutionary project deepens, we'll see it manifest itself more. I would hope that the indigenous people, the Mexican people will be able to embrace the 19 points that we're talking about, because it is not the revolution, but what it does is undermine the existing social system, and it begins the process of contributing to the power of the African population too. And that's what we have to do across these borders, doing what we can to provide solidarity and strength to the indigenous people in the genuine struggle. In terms of what's happening with this Dakota, people familiar with this issue of the Dakota pipeline that they have been trying to build. Thousands of indigenous people coming from everywhere, crossing what they call tribal lines and et cetera, in opposition to what they're trying to do. Force the U.S. government that had already previously given permission for the pipeline to go, forcing them to back up off of it despite the court ruling, because thousands of them are out there. And some of the people are complaining that for them to succeed in doing that, it's going to poison the water, do something bad to the water, and they're on sacred ground. Well, all of this country is sacred ground for the indigenous people. And, people make the kind of demands often that they feel like they are politically strong enough to make at any given moment. I believe that if the indigenous people understood that they have an army of solidarity and support with Africans and with North Americans and with indigenous people, then I think you'll see the demand begin to escalate for return of their resources, the land and everything else, and pass out job applications to white people and visas to white people who might see if they can, visa applications to see if they can stay. But the thing is, I think that what has to happen, I think it's going to be struggle. And those of us who represent the advanced sectors of our population reaching out to each other to represent the interests of the Mexicans, indigenous, and African people here, that's the thing that's going to build the unity. Yes, my friend. He's going to give you that mic. Because we're live streaming that.
During the election time, I was thinking people was talking about the slavery, and I was telling them, I'm like, well, back then, black people didn't have guns. The white people had guns. But nowadays, black people also have the guns. And the way that things are going now, it's not going to be the same way that it was back then, because you have black people back then, they felt like we have to do what we have to do because we have family, we have kids, we have to make sure of this. Nowadays, they don't care about living or dying.
Well, let me just say that it's an illusion in the line that Africans have never not fought, even during slavery. I mean, we fought. I mean, massive rebellions, uprisings, and what have you. And that's why slavery had to end, because Africans were fighting tooth and nail. So we've never not fought. And I just want to say this too. You cannot measure your ability to succeed on the numbers of weapons that you have, or you think you have, or even the number of trained people you think you have. Let me tell you, one of the greatest military generals, geniuses in history, and certainly modern history, was a man named Vo Nguyen Gia. He was a school teacher in Vietnam, and didn't know anything about armies or militaries or anything like that. And Ho Chi Minh, when the French were dominating the people in Vietnam, colonizing them, Ho Chi Minh called Gia and told him to go out and build an army. He didn't have anybody. He didn't have no guns. They might have had a pistol. They might have had some raggedy rifle, and they began to organize. What do you think the oppressed get their guns from? Where do you think they come from? I'm asking you, where do you think they come from?
To be honest, I don't know.
You don't know. Hold on, that's all right. You don't have to do that. The people in your community carry guns every day. They ride around in cars with little lights on them and stuff like that. And one gun can turn into two, just like that. You know what I'm saying? And that can turn into more. That's how oppressed people have always got their weapons, from the oppressor. They're the ones who got the guns. So if you want guns, then where do you go? Go to the oppressor. You don't say, Mr. Oppressor, you give me the gun? No. If you're lucky, you take them off before the body gets cold. That's another story. That's how every revolution has been made. No revolution of the oppressed has been made with some kind of equality in terms of arms between the oppressed and the oppressor. Never. During slavery, during no time in history has that ever happened. But the slave gets the weapon from the slave master. In that tournament, they raided the slave master stuff. They used axes and hatchets and stuff and started off with what happened. So this whole notion that somehow you got all the guns and then you go take, no, it doesn't work like that. If you have all the guns, you wouldn't have to fight. You wouldn't have to fight. I'm telling you, the police would fight you. They knew they had to come to this community and face an armed mass and they move out of town.
That's why they have drones.
Yes. Well, drones haven't succeeded yet. They got drones. I'll tell you why they got drones. They got drones because they cannot trust those white soldiers to come and put their asses on the line anymore.
They can use drone strikes in the U.S. against American citizens. They make them enemies of the state.
What you say about amendment?
He passed an amendment 2 years ago.
Obama passed an amendment 2 years ago that if you're an enemy of the state and you're in the United States, that they can do a drone strike on you on American soil.
If an amendment was passed, it's never happened. They didn't need an amendment. It's illegal. All the stuff they kill us. They kill us illegally now. They don't have to have a law. That's what having state power means. And you know, the state legalizes itself. And then what Obama did, who was going to say, okay, Obama, yeah, that was illegal, you got to stop. Other people who been killed will say, what are you going to do? They're going to have a demonstration because they killed us illegally? The ones got the guns make the law. They're the ones who set the terms. They're the ones who say that what's on a piece of paper means something that doesn't mean something. Obama got a bunch of hack lawyers together and came up and tried to legally justify murdering people around the world. And yes, they did wrong. Yes, they got somebody to say, okay, according to this, it can be done, but nobody is not recognized even in international law. It's war crimes according to international law that they commit. But the U.S. has no respect for international law. You know why? Because the United States by itself got more guns than most of the other countries around the world combined. It's the gun. Believe me when I tell you, it got nothing to do with morality. They don't care nothing about what's on a piece of paper. I know there's a group that's out there, they call themselves some kind of Muslim something, that says that there's some secret document that's buried somewhere, and when you find that document that says we're supposed to be free, that's it. They don't care nothing about no damn document. How many times did they double-cross the indigenous people? How many treaties have they signed with the indigenous people, and once they signed it, it didn't mean anything, they just did what they wanted to do. This is what you really got to understand, that you don't have power, not because the Constitution says you don't have power because the city council voted against it. You don't have power because they got the guns and organization and you do not. There are a lot of guns in our community, but there ain't no organization and there ain't no ideological clarity, political strategy or anything like that. You know there are guns in your community. But what to do with them and when to do it and etc. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much. I think it was really important for us to talk about this election and how we have to move forward. I want to say that even when the Nation of Islam was talking about giving the brother a chance, and a lot of other folk, the party was quite clear on what it is that that we had to do. That this thing that they call a duopoly, the two parties, and it didn't have anything to do with that. It's got to do with the social system itself, the nature of the beast itself. And that we've been killed by the Democrats and Republicans. We've been killed by them combined. The Congress is comprised of Democrats and Republicans. They unite when it comes to killing oppressed peoples around the world. There's no issue with that. Thank you, brothers and sisters.